Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Race Course, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow live from Saratoga in front of Clare Court on a gorgeous morning. Sun is shining, a little cool as compared to earlier in the meet, but very comfortable. Looks like a great day of racing up here. Don't forget tote bag giveaway today. So if you'd like to come up, tote bags while supplies last. Keep that in mind as well. Coming up a little bit later on the show, Matt Cutair from Adelphi Racing Club. They have some horses in this weekend here. They've got a horse in stake down in Monmouth as well. So I thought it'd be a great time to have Matt come in, talk a little bit about the Racing Club partnership in general, and get a little update on some of the horses that are coming up on the weekend. We'll also be joined a little bit later by Jim and Tina Bond. Again, they have the barn right down the road, and we see them go back and forth all morning long, multiple times, bringing horses over here for works in the morning. So we always like to bring our neighbors in for a little conversation. And I ran into Jim and Tina over on the front side the other day, and they were talking about how successful it's been, the bus rides from breakfast. That I think it's a couple of years old, where you go over for breakfast, and a couple of days a week, they'll take you to a local farm. And this year it's Jim and Tina's farm. And they said it's been very successful, and they wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. And I thought, great, we'll have you in. Let's do it. So that's coming up a little bit later on. But happy to be joined now. Again, every week we have the folks from the Saratoga Special, Tom Law and the Clancy's, but we also try to figure in some of the interns during the season as well. And I thought today we would be joined by Alec Diconza and Terry Hill on the far side, kind of the rookie and the veteran of the intern scene. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Terry, I'll start with you because I know you've been with the Special for a while. I mean, you're going back probably before the pandemic here, right?
5 years.
5 years. Talk a little bit about how you got tied in with the Special and what's been up the last 5 years working up here in the summer.
I had been retired. I worked in advertising for 30 years. I had been retired until I was 75, and I was up here. I've always been a horse racing fan. I've always been a writer. I was up here and I saw what the interns were doing, and I said, boy, I wish I could have done that when I was in my 20s. And then I made the dangerous question of, hey, how about now? I applied to Tom and the Clancy's, and they ignored me. But eventually I pestered them enough that they said, well, we'll try it out.
And as I say, you've been 5 years now. And I was listening to a podcast last night with you and Tom and Joe. And Tom said, yeah, usually, the interns will last a couple of years and then they move on. But he said, you're locked in now. Yeah. You're locked in.
Yeah. Until death do us part, apparently.
Alec, you're on the other side of it, the rookie, as it were. Talk a little bit about what got you attracted and how'd you join up with the Saratoga Special folks?
So I've been into racing for about 9 years, and I've always been interested in, like typical teenage summer jobs are maybe like lifeguarding or babysitting, something like that. But I've always wanted to sort of get into the industry in some way possible. And I was looking up some jobs that were possible, and I found that the Saratoga Special would be hiring for interns for another year. So I know I was younger, but I saw that in the article that they had a Terry Hill, who's known as the world's oldest intern. So I emailed Tom and I asked, hey, if there's any way I can contribute, I'd absolutely love to, even though I'm a little bit younger than the average. But it's been really fun. It's been great.
I just want to say that when he says he's been a racing fan for 9 years, that's more than half of his life.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
There is right now a 63-year spread between the oldest young turn in history and the youngest.
That's why I wanted you guys in here as a team, and the rookie and the veteran. I thought it'd be a great team to have in here. And I sit behind you guys. I'm up on the second tier in the press box. I see you guys down in the front row. And as has been the case with the Saratoga Special interns over the year, columnists and interns, you guys are constantly running in and out of the press box. And Alec, I followed you down yesterday, and I think we have a couple of pictures. I got you going down the clubhouse stairs, headed to the winner's circle before one of the late races, and then you're kind of chasing the winning trainer out of the winner's circle to get some quotes. Yep. Talk a little bit about it. What's your day like working for the special?
Well, I'll get there probably around noon, and I'll probably handicap the card for about an hour. But then when the races start, I'll look if there's any under the radar connections. Maybe I'll go down and talk to a winning trainer, a winning owner, some cases a winning jockey. But it's oftentimes they're busy and they're on the TV. So then when they leave, I have to sort of get in there and ask them, "Hey, I'm from the special. Could I ask you a few questions?" And I've never really had an issue. They've always been very nice. And I mean, I always tell my parents if they're wondering, is anybody ever in a bad mood? And I say, well, I'm asking them to talk about how they just won a race. So they're in a good mood, and usually they'll give me some good stuff to write about.
Terry, talk about your typical day for the special.
Well, I do sort of the same thing, except I have never really mastered the recorder. So as a result, sometimes I have to rely on my now failing memory in terms of getting the quotes. Actually, I do what and did and have done what Alex does for the 5 years that I've been with it. But I also write a column, an occasional column for the paper, which I find a lot of fun and allows me to interview anybody I want and beg them for good quotes and stuff.
So are you bouncing around the backstretch in the morning too?
Yeah. I was out the other day talking with Tom Morley for a column that will appear, I think, tomorrow in the paper. But, sometimes we're just out there looking for some kind of a story,
I know the feeling, because sometimes I'm searching around for guests to come in and sit in here as well. Were you a racing fan all your life?
All my life. I went to the races the first time when I was 4 years old with my family. My family was living my parents moved down to Mexico when I was three, and I decided to go with them. And so it was in Mexico at Las Americas, Hipódromo de las Americas. And that's where I saw him. And we used to go every Sunday. And it was a family thing, like it is out in the backstretch.
Yeah. So are you a Saratoga guy?
No, I grew up in Michigan, lived in Toronto for 13 years, then went to Europe and worked in Europe, and then New York, and I've been all over.
So where do you live now?
New York and Mexico. We have a house in Mexico, and during the winter we live in Mexico.
Very good. So you're dedicated, and you're here for the summer. I like that. To work with these. Very, very good. Alec, give me the feeling. What was it like when you opened up the first or second issue, or whenever your first work appeared, and to see your name in there and your written work appear in the paper?
It was pretty cool. I mean, I've read the Saratoga Special before, and I've always thought it was a great newspaper, and just seeing my name as like contributing to it and like writing stuff in it, recaps, everything. It was really awesome. It's just great to get my name out there, especially. And
I just want to say one thing. When he opened the paper to see his first byline and the thing, he opened the paper and he saw it 7 times, because in his first issue he produced like 7 recaps or something. Yes. It was getting boring seeing his name there.
I did 3 on Thursday, opening day, and then I did the Wilton on day 2 with randomized, and then a couple other recaps too. And Yeah, I remember you came in on Saturday and you applauded me for saying I broke my maiden
Yeah.
in the racing industry.
Have you done much writing before in school or whatever?
I mean, English classes,
Yeah.
but nothing. There's no like journalism classes or anything. But I've read so many articles on horse racing in my time as a fan. I sort of understood what you had to do to produce it, what kind of questions you had to ask. And especially after the first week, it just felt natural, honestly, just getting it. I know I still have a lot to learn, of course, but it's I started getting more used to it, and it was fun. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm assuming, where Tom Laza is sitting out here at the picnic table, and Tom, Sean, and Joe, and Terry, I'm sure you're getting great mentoring as well.
Yes, of course. I mean, I couldn't be more grateful to have this opportunity and to have people like them as my bosses, I guess. And I hope to be back next year. It's been a great summer.
And I assume you are a Saratoga guy.
Yes, I mean I live down in Clifton Park, which is about 20 minutes south of here, but it's a well, my parents are the ones who have to drive. I just got my permit, but it's not too bad, and it's great. It's having Saratoga be so close to where I live. It's honestly a great situation.
Do you look at the list? Every year, the first or second time we have the Saratoga Special guys come in and talk, we always go over the list of interns. You look at the list of interns and think, maybe that's Gabby Gaudette and Travis Stone and names like that. It has proven to be a very productive ground for people who want to move into the industry. Do you see going in the horse racing industry, or have you made any decisions about career hopes?
It's hard to know right now. I mean, in an ideal situation, absolutely. Maybe something that combines like racing itself and with maybe something in the data kind of field, maybe some data analysis or but really I would love to do what I'm doing right now as well. There's a lot of options, and I'm willing to embrace that for now.
Terry, what was your writing background? You said you worked in the advertising industry. You were doing writing there?
Yes, I made my living writing 30-second commercials, television commercials.
All right.
And in a 30-second television commercial, that's about 68 words is considered the maximum. So writing a recap is like 300 words. It seemed like I wasn't sure I knew that many words. But in the end, I found out that I could push it. You can use some of them more than once, for instance. And so I was able to get up to 300. But I got to tell you, Alec is incredible at doing. He's fast and they're good. I mean, the recap is kind of a formula. There are certain facts that you have to get in and stuff. But a sonnet is also a formula, but my sonnets are different than Shakespeare's, for instance, and he's a little better. But the same goes with recaps. We all want to make a great recap, working within the formula, but do something.
Yeah. And you guys have kind of alluded to it, and I say it when we have the special guys in all the time. The special is one of the things that makes Saratoga so special, that there's a horse racing dedicated newspaper here for the season, and it's fun to have that and have had it for years, and you guys certainly part of that. And as I said, Terry, I was watching and listening to a podcast that you and the special guys did probably a couple of years ago. It looked like from the date, but you made a comment, and being now realizing a kind of a copywriter, I've written some 30-second commercials myself. I used to have a little television production company in town, and you have to pick your words, and you like to be clever. And you were kind of commenting how fun it was to listen to Chad Brown make Plan B a verb.
Yeah.
He said Plan B to horse.
Yeah. Well, as a writer, you look at the words and you notice things like that. Yeah, I Plan B'd the horse into the Della Rose.
I appreciated that as well. Let's talk a little bit about Saratoga 2023. You guys have been here covering the meet, so let's get some of the highlights. One of the highlights to me, obviously, was last weekend. I thought Arcangelo and the Jenna Antonucci story. Terry, what were some of your highlights for 2023?
We had some friends up several weeks ago, and we took him to the morning workouts, and we were standing by the paddock, and I saw Jenna Antonucci walking with a gray. And I said, "Is that Arcangelo?" And she said, "Yeah, that's Arcangelo. You have a good eye." Well, as she said later, she was the tell on that. And the gray. But anybody who has seen her in that video that they have of her watching Arcangelo win, that is the definition of passion. And even though if I had been betting, I would not have bet on Arcangelo, my whole heart was rooting for Arcangelo, and it was so great when you won.
Yeah, it was certainly. And that one vaulted to the front of the 3-year-old division, and it was fun to see. I like you, betting wise, I thought the layoff was a little bit, but then in the post race press conference, he said, "Well, thank you to all the naysayers. They just propelled me a little harder." So, Alex, some of your highlights of 2023.
Well, honestly, my favorite part of Saratoga, I love all things 2-year-olds. I love all the maiden races. I love the stake races. Really looking forward to the Spinaway and Hopeful, which are the highlights of those races. But just watching those maiden races, like Ways and Means win, I think day after Whitney Day. Emery was good a couple days ago for Brad Cox. And a few more like Ozara on the grass a few weeks ago. It's just, I'm sure I'm missing some too. It's just been really great, and I couldn't be more excited for races like the Spinaway, Hopeful, as I said, and the With Anticipation yesterday was great with Galabrand beating the boys, potentially going the Breeders' Cup after this, or maybe the Miss Grillo. It's just fun to see where all their careers lead up, because you look at them in the form as first-time starters, and you never know. They could be the next Eclipse champion. So you never know where something can lead, and it's fun to think about.
And I'll ask you, you've kind of hinted at it already, but this has to be, if you say you've been a horse racing fan for quite a while, you're a relatively local guy, this has to be a great gig, right?
Yeah, it's far better than anything I could have imagined. I usually come maybe 8, 9, 10 times a year, but this will be day 29, 30 for me, and I do plan on coming at least on closing day. After today's technically the last day of work. But it's been so fun, and being so close to Saratoga and being able to cover the races, talk to people I've admired for more than half my life. It's honestly been a dream come true.
When school start?
Wednesday.
Terry, when school start for you?
My school, I'll be in the paddock schooling later this afternoon. The thing is about, he said that he has enjoyed it so much and so on, and that's what he thought of. That's what I was thinking about, being in my 20s and having this job as a way to start. It is a great job. And it's so, if you love horse racing, as obviously we both do, and it's been great working with Alec.
Well, I said to him, it's got to be a great gig, but it sounds like it's a great gig for you too. You've been doing it for 5 years, and you say you don't live in the area, so you're coming up here to do it. Yeah. Just express that a little bit. How much fun it's been the last 5 years?
Well, when I started, I was terrified every time I've got to talk to somebody, but and there goes the jockey. How am I going to get him? And so. But I got accustomed to it. It was harder for me to break in than it was for Alec, who seemed to take to it immediately. But they wouldn't let me do a stakes race for like 3 years, He did it on his second day.
Well, actually, Prodigy.
I was actually terrified of Terry on day one, because I recapped, I had to get an interview from Linda Rice, who won the first race. And at the time, my phone was so far away from her mouth, I could barely hear a word she said. And Terry was like he was like, "I need a quote from Linda for this." He was gonna write it, and I was just so scared he wasn't gonna like me. But here we are, probably 7 weeks later, and
it worked out.
Yeah. It's been great. It's usually us two in the press box. Mary joins us on weekends. Nolan would sometimes be there, but
But you sit right behind us. You can hear that we obviously.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons
Probably talk too much.
No, that's one of the reasons I wanted you guys in, because I do see you out there every day. And as I say, like is typical for the interns, you're running back and forth, and it's great to see. And I thought, let's get the rookie and the veteran in to talk a little bit as we wrap up the season with some Saratoga Special interns. So Terry, Alec, appreciate your visits this morning. Good luck on the last issue. Hopefully everybody gets some good stuff in there, and we'll talk again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll head to a break. When we come back, Matt Cutair is in Adelphi Racing Club. They have some nice entries coming up on the weekend here. Stake down in Monmouth. We'll talk that and much more a little bit later on. Jim and Tina Bond. Stay tuned. Racing Across America continues.
Turn your love of racing into savings with equine discounts through the NTRA. Purchase through equine discounts and receive great savings on well-known brands like John Deere, Sherwin-Williams, Big Ass Fans, Farmers Insurance, and Office Depot. Join thousands of other equine members and support companies that give back to the sport we all love. Call 866-678-4289 or visit equinediscounts.com to start saving today.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Friday morning as we kick off Labor Day weekend and the last few days at Saratoga. We're all melancholy about that, but looking forward to the weekend, I'm sure, is Matt Cutair from the Adelphi Racing Club. They have some entries in over the weekend here. Also a little stakes race down at Monmouth. We'll hit on some of that and more. Matt, good morning.
Thanks for having me again.
Happy to have you again. Had Rich Cristiano earlier from Adelphi, and we were talking to Adelphi. It's always fun to have him in and hear some of the stories about how he got in the game and whatnot. But I want to get the major domo from the partnership in. And we talked about it with Rich, but I love the name, Adelphi Racing Club, which I think plays into your philosophy. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, we just kind of happened on it. I've started a few businesses, and every time I've started a business, just kind of bandy back and forth names. And, inevitably you look them up and they're not available. Somebody's used them. And my partner, Jordan Zotz, actually came up with Adelphi. We looked it up. Obviously, there was a connection to the Adelphi Hotel here in Saratoga, so it had a little bit of a Saratoga connection. And then when we looked up Adelphi, it actually means brotherhood. And
nice.
That's kind of what we were looking for in terms of creating the partnership. We wanted to make it more of a partnership and a group of people getting together and having a good time. And so it seemed to fit, and we went with it.
And I always ask the partnership people because I imagine, and all the partnerships that I talk to, the social aspect is a major factor. But I'm guessing up at Saratoga even more so, because you get people who are happy to come up and go in the paddock and hopefully get to the winner's circle, but come out to the backstretch in the morning.
Yeah, look, I mean, I always say to partners, can't guarantee wins, but we can guarantee that we're going to have a good time and do good. And I think that's kind of been the story of this meet for us. And actually, today is the day that we're having all of our partners out. We'll have about 50 or 60 partners out in one of the spa verandas today. We had a nice event with the TRF yesterday at a local farm that houses some retired thoroughbreds, little cocktail party, beautiful weather. Can't beat it.
Yeah, TRF, a great organization. I have Kim. I've had Kim in a couple of times. Kim Weir on some. We were at the barbecue last week. That's a great fundraiser to mark on your calendar for next year. Certainly. Start of the meet. I contacted you and said we'll plug you in at some point. You're going to be in town, and you said, yeah, pretty much the whole meet, but you're going to spend a week at Del Mar. Did you go to Del Mar? I got to get to Del Mar. I looked at that shot before the races start, looking across the street at the beach. I think, perfect. Beach, horse racing.
You know what? I love Saratoga. It's hard to miss a day of Saratoga, but I've been doing Del Mar for like 16 or 17 years, and I can't give it up.
Yeah.
You used to be able to do it. It could have worked for you probably in the past. You used to be able to do opening day Del Mar on Wednesday, which is always crazy. Then Thursday, actually the day after opening day at Del Mar is always the best day for degenerate horse players because nobody's there except for degenerate horse players. And then I used to fly back to Saratoga, and Saratoga would open on a Friday. Those were like 2 or 3 years that happened. Those were the best. Now I have to miss a weekend, but Del Mar's great. So,
opening day, most tracks, the big day is like Travers, the Kentucky Derby, the big day. So you have the big 3-year-old race or some other big race. Opening day has always been the big day at Del Mar.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a scene. It's a little different than what we have here.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and look, the racing there, the summer's been really good too. So, I was very confused when I was there betting late pick 5s and pick 6s and stuff like that. But I had a fun time doing it. So, good racing and full fields and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, very good. I just want a little update on that because, as I say, I would love to get out there. And now I probably could go to the fall meet, but that doesn't seem quite the same. But I'll get out there. I'll get out there at some point. Also, looking up some of your info last night, I found it interesting. Adelphi Racing Club. We'll talk about some of the horses you have in over the next few days. But I saw you sold one over to sales to Bill Parcells.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I got into breeding a little bit right around 2019, 2020. Joe Migliori, who does bloodstock work for Adelphi, did bloodstock work for me. When I was just running under my own name. He suggested back in like 2018, hey, why don't we think about getting into breeding? And, for me, I'm kind of an action guy. And, just the thought of the whole process of buying a broodmare in foal and then waiting 2.5, 3 years before you get a yearling to sell and all that sort of stuff. It just seemed like, all right, that's a long time. But I'm thankful that he talked me into it because I have about 5 broodmares now, or pieces of 5 broodmares. And it's been those sort of 2 or 3 years. So now every year, we've got 2 or 3 or 4 maybe that we're going to sell at the various sales. And we had a really nice Omaha Beach colt that sold to Bill, as you said, and I was happy to have him buy it. And, the half sister we sold last year for $100,000 out of Cantharos at the same sale. I think Mike Dubb has that horse. I think it's a Mike Maker horse. Hasn't debuted yet, but I've heard good things. So hopefully the Omaha Beach is even nicer.
New York breds?
Yeah, they're all New York breds. Everything I've done from a breeding perspective is New York breds. And honestly, from an Adelphi standpoint, I would say 75% of what we do is New York breds. I think the New York bred program is phenomenal. I know we're going to talk about some of our horses today. We've got a New York bred in an open maiden special today, and you're running for 48,000 more purse wise, plus the breeder's bonus and all the other stuff. So we love the New York bred program in general.
And yeah, if you're a New York bred breeder, you are attached to that horse forever because they win, you still get to check. And what does it feel like to send one of your horses into the sales ring?
You know what? It's funny. I used to get nervous before every race when I didn't run as many horses. Now I get nervous in specific spots for races, but when I'm selling the horse, I am super nervous. And I don't know why. Like just standing there and, you're waiting, you've got a reserve, kind of, all right, is that live money? Is it not? And then, it's just kind of that sigh of relief once it hits above the reserve, you can kind of breathe again. But it's, it's few and far between. It's not like racing where I'm running 5-6 horses this weekend. It's once a year for a few horses, but it's, it gets the heart pumping for sure.
Talk about how you got into the game originally.
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, I always liked horse racing growing up in Maryland. Didn't really have any family involved in it or anything. I just always liked it. Actually moved to New York City when I was younger. Didn't really know anybody. This was back when you had OTBs in Manhattan, and actually had OTBs at certain bars and restaurants in Manhattan, and didn't really know anybody in New York. So for the first 5-6 months in the city, pretty much every Saturday I would go to a local bar that had an OTB, and I'd hang out and handicap and bet races. And I just got more and more into it. And then I was like, maybe I'll try to buy into a racehorse. Actually, you mentioned Rich Cristiano. I reached out to him, and I reached out to Matt Gassis from Sovereign Stables and a few other people. Ended up getting involved with Sovereign, and just kind of have gone from there.
Yeah, very good. And what the Adelphi Racing Club? What is your philosophy for acquiring horses? Do you play the claiming game? Do you go to sales, yearlings or 2-year-olds, or a little bit of everything?
We do a little bit of everything. I mean, we claimed 2 horses this year, so we're not claiming every day. But when we find horses we like, we will drop, and we've had some success with that. This year with Daddy Knows, he's getting a little break in the summer, but he'll come back in the fall. But he was a good claim for us early in the year. But we're primarily focused on the yearling sales and the 2-year-old sales. I prefer the yearling sales, but we will buy at the 2-year-old sales. I just try to stay within a reasonable price range. You've got to spend enough to be able to compete in New York, and we want to do that. But at the same time, once you get up to certain levels, you're competing with people that have infinite resources, and it's just not really worth it. For the level that we have from a financial perspective. And we try to take advantage of particular kinds of horses. I try to buy fillies that have some potential residual. So that hopefully there's something at the end of the racing career that comes back monetarily. I try to buy New York breds because of, the program and the restricted races and all that sort of stuff. So we really just, we're not going out and trying to buy Derby horses. We're going out and trying to buy horses that, will run in New York bred stakes races and, are able to go through their New York bred conditions and then hopefully, take on open company and go through their open company conditions here in New York and have fun with it and compete. But compete in a fiscally responsible way as best as you can in horse racing.
Have you tried to claim anything up here? Because I know that the claim box has been kind of nuclear. The multiple shakes, it's been tough up here for claiming.
We got close on 1 or 2, but we ended up passing. But we are we're pretty picky as it relates to what we claim. And it probably would have disappointed me anyway because we would have dropped and then been in a 15-way shake, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, no, as I say, it has been very active up here, the claim box. All right, let's talk about some of the horses coming up. Had Howard Kravitz in from the HHH Racing podcast earlier, and he had a great visit to Saratoga, highlighted by pretty much right after he got in town. We're going back to earlier in the meet, the end of July. We're going to look at Certified Loverboy getting it done for the Adelphi Racing Club and company. And as I say, Howard was in on that one, so he was in the winner's circle and had a great time. But this one, as I understand, also coming back on Sunday, and a non-winners of one other than.
Yeah, I mean, it's called a non-winners of one other than, but it looks pretty tough. There's a couple of horses running mid to high 90 buyers in there. Look, this is a horse that had always looked good in the morning since he came in as a 2-year-old. We always liked him. He started on dirt. He ran okay. Ray switched him to turf. He seemed to run a little bit better. We got fortunate, I think, this day that they came off the turf, got to go back to dirt, and he had always worked so well on dirt, just, had never put it together in the afternoon, but he's an older, more mature horse now, and he really put it together. I thought it was a very professional effort. He got a career-high buyer. He's going to have to step up in this spot, but, with this horse at this meet, we're kind of playing with the house's money a little bit, I think. Yeah. And I do think he'll like 2 turns, going the 1 1/8 this time as well. So I'm excited about him. The races are always tough here. This one seemed to come up, extremely tough for the level.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from the people who are sitting in here. Yeah. It's a tough place to win, but you already put a win in the books with him, so it was nice to get in the winner's circle, obviously up at Saratoga. Coming up today, race number 1. I think Hard Par looks good off of this effort. We'll look at the debut effort going back to July 27. Jimmy the Tooth will be the winner of the number 7. Hard Par runs second, the number 9 horse, Katie Davis, on board that day. She'll be back on board this afternoon. What do you see this afternoon in the opener for Hard Par?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was very impressive on debut. Our trainer, Ray Handel, is not one to have horses fully cranked for their debuts, and he has pretty low stats in terms of first-time starters because of that. This horse certainly outran that. He outran his odds. Obviously, he didn't win the race, but I thought everything else that he did in the race was a 10 out of 10. Yeah. He was inside horses. He rated kindly. He split horses. He just did things that, young horses a lot of times will not do. And so I was really impressed with him there. And he has the look of a horse. When you watch him in the morning and you talk to Katie, who gets on him a lot, you talk to the exercise riders, since his race, it seems like that proverbial light bulb has gone on for him. He's trained better out of the race. And look, it's unfortunate that we don't get to go back in New York bred, competition. We tried to enter him for a race last week. He was the only also eligible. The 10 horses stayed in the race. And so we had to scratch. We didn't get in. And, look, we're making an educated guess. They have that New York bred race coming back at the end of the meet. but with only one extra horse entered last time, we think it probably won't go. So one of the great things we talked about a little bit earlier about the Saratoga and the New York bred program is that they're offering these track New York bred bonuses in certain open races. And so, he basically gets to run for about 50,000 more than the New York bred purse here. He's doing very well. And the next New York bred race after the one that we don't think will go is October 1. So we'll run here and, hope for the best and see what we have. And, if he runs second or third, should still get a good check. And then we can come back in New York bred competition next time. But I do think he'll take a step forward. I think it's just a matter of, are any of those first time starters, the goods. There doesn't seem to be anybody that stands out, but there seems to be a few horses that could be that. So we'll just have to see. But I do think he'll run better than last time, and he ran good last time. So I'm excited about it.
And Katie having a very good meet. She'll be on board. She will also be on board in race number 3, Ribos Valentine. You own that one in partnership with Blue Streak. My old friend Tim McCoy. I've known Tim for years. We're going to take a look back August 3rd. Rebos Valentine will run third in here. Going to be the number 2 horse. I'm having a moment. First, Security Code second. But again, Rebos Valentine, the number 2, nice little third in the Saratoga start. And it looks like now gets to string a couple together, which I think will be beneficial. Give us some thoughts. Third race, Rebos Valentine.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys here for her. We bought into her privately before the stretch out race experiment, which didn't go very well. She just didn't want to go that far. But that's fine. We learned something that day. She was coming in off a layoff there. We wanted to run her back, but the way the races worked out, she didn't have anything wrong, but the way the races worked out, we didn't get a start in until the last one. She was kind of running off another mini layoff there. So I think the keys for her today are she's running off of, an actual race this time. She's second off the layoff. She's not off of a layoff. I thought last time, she was on a bit of a dead rail, and she still finished pretty well. The winner that day, I think, is a stakes filly that, happened to find the condition in Saratoga and ran there. I don't think we run into those types of horses here. And I think that the pace scenario suits us really well here. We're drawn well outside. There's a good amount of speed, I think, to our inside, especially the other logical contenders. And I'm hoping they kind of get hooked up in a bit of a speed duel. We sit a nice trip and we can, run by him at the end. I think she's another one that'll take a step forward here, second off the layoff. And I do, as I said, think that the tactical advantage, is in her favor. There's just a couple horses in here that have run figures that if they run back to them, it'll take a lot of beating. So we'll have to see about that. But I do think that she'll have a chance in this spot, and I think it sets up well for
her. You've kind of alluded to it already. I had Mark Hennigan here yesterday, I think it was, and he was talking about early in the meet. He had a great early part of the meet, and the condition books were just matching up with what he has. And you kind of alluded to similar things, picking your spots and where do you go. How involved are you working with your trainers on picking the spots?
I would say 90% of the time we let the trainers pick the spots. The times that I'll get involved, or Joe Migliore is our bloodstock agent will get involved, is if we're talking about dropping a horse in for a tag. Anytime there's a decision that is sort of an economical decision around, potentially selling a horse or losing a horse through the claim box, we'll obviously weigh in and we'll have an opinion on that. And then obviously with horses that are running in stakes races or that kind of thing, if they're fillies or mares, if there's potential residual value, those sorts of things, we might, have an opinion and step in and have a conversation. But for the most part, we're going to let the trainers pick the spots.
Makes sense. Also wanted to hit on one more coming up this weekend because you have one in a little $100,000 stake down at Monmouth coming up tomorrow. 5th race tomorrow. The Violet and Community Adjusted is entered. I went back 2 races for a Community Adjusted. June 3rd down at Pimlico. Community Adjusted is going to be the number 4 horse here. Subsequent to that, ran 3rd in a stake at Laurel, but again, entered tomorrow, the Violet down at Monmouth. What are your thoughts on Community Adjusted?
She's really done well this year. And honestly, a lot of credit to trainer Christophe Clement, who had her for the first few years of her racing career. We had some success with him last year. And, when we put her away for the winter and we decided we wanted to bring her back, a lot of trainers will want to just keep horses in their barn. He's always very honest about where he thinks the fillies are and the colts as well, and obviously where they should go. And his thoughts on this filly, I think, have been really, spot on. One, he thought, obviously, you're running the second level allowance condition in New York. It's the toughest circuit in the world for that on turf. So his thought was maybe you get her somewhere where you can run the Mid-Atlantic, run somewhere, sort of a cut below. She can win that race. She checked that box in the race that you showed. And then obviously from there, he thought maybe we'd find a stake somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic to get black type because she does have some pedigree as well. And we checked that box in the last start as well. Arnaud Delacour had been an assistant for him for a while, so it was an easy transition for the filly to go into a program that was very similar to what she was used to. And Arnaud has done a phenomenal job with her this year. And I'm excited about this race. I think Chad Brown has 2 horses in here that are very tough. But she's, doing very well. And, I think tactically she should sit just off, hopefully, and make a run. And, in the last race, I know we didn't show that one, but in the last race, she did check pretty badly in the stretch. The winner, was clear, but kind of came in on her, and the jock had to pull up a little bit. I think she would have been closer to the second place horse in that race. The second place horse in that race, actually a Clement horse. I think if you had that filly in this spot, she would look very good and would be certainly, vying for favoritism with that Chad Brown filly. So, look, I think we're right there. Hopefully, we get a break and maybe this filly can win a stake.
And again, that's tomorrow down in Monmouth, 5th race, the Violet Community Adjusted. Matt, I think we have a shot of the website address, and so people, if they want to stop by, you can keep up with the horses and what you guys have coming up. But also, I'm assuming you're always looking for folks who are maybe interested to join up, and the website a good spot to do that.
Yeah, you can always find us on our website. There's a section there where you can reach out. You can subscribe to our mailing list if you want to get offerings and just updates on the stable. I do my best to not send out a ton of emails, so I won't be spamming you. And you can always reach out to me directly at matt@adelphiracing.com, or find me at the races.
Yeah, I was going to say, or they could just go to the races and they may run into you over there. That is likely also.
I am there all the time, even at Aqueduct, so I will be there usually.
Very good. Matt, good luck over the weekend, wrapping up the Saratoga meet going forward as well. Appreciate the visit.
Thanks for having me.
Matt Cutair from Adelphi Racing Club. All right, we'll take a break. Jim and Tina Bond are in the house. We'll talk a little Bond racing and more right after this. Stay tuned.
Why just watch the races when you can be in the middle of the action? For nearly 20 years, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program has made thoroughbred ownership affordable for the everyday fan. Ownerships of 5 and 10% are now available on a nice selection of horses. As a partial owner with Bonaventure Stables, you'll enjoy all the benefits afforded every owner. Visit with your horse in the private stable area. Greet the trainers and jockeys in the paddock. And when your horse wins, savor the moment in the winner's circle at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, or wherever you bring home the prize. Based in historic Saratoga Springs, Bonaventure Stables has been training winners and creating memories since 2005. Learn more, see available horses, and meet our team at bonaventurestables.com.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. We are live from Clare Court, and that means we're right around the corner from the Bond operation. And so I have to have them in. Jim and Tina Bond. Good morning, neighbors.
Good morning, Seth.
We see you drive by every morning. We refer to your golf cart as the Rolls Royce of golf carts, as it has, I think, 3 or 4 rows. One of them is typically occupied by a dog. So give us what the typical morning is for you guys. How many sets do you bring over? Because I mean, at the time I'm in here, I see you probably go back and forth at least 3 times. How often are you back and forth?
We are the first set in the morning at 5:15. We do 9 to 10 sets, and one or 2 sets are behind us here in Clare Court. And like I say, we keep them moving, and schooling in the paddocks and schooling in the gates and everything that needs to be done.
Tina, I'll let you give the background a little bit. Whenever I get people in here, I know we have folks who are maybe new to the game that tune in during Saratoga. We've talked to you guys before, but give us a little background. How did you and Jim meet, and how did you guys become involved in the operation you have now locally?
Well, Jim's the horse person. I worked in a local restaurant near Deep Pacific's near Finger Lakes Racetrack, and I kept that job after I worked at Kodak, and we became friends and had mutual friends, and here we are.
And how many offspring, and all your kids are involved in the game as well, correct?
Both of our sons. Yep. Kevin is our oldest son, and he's an assistant trainer, and Ryan, our youngest son, is an assistant trainer. We have one grandson, Benjamin, so
cute too. Beginning of the meet, I saw him out in the paddock. Jim, a Finger Lakes guy, talk a little bit about how you got into the game and transitioning from Finger Lakes onto the NYRA circuit.
Basically, I was very fortunate. Worked pretty hard at Finger Lakes. My dad had horses when I was a kid. Left kind of early in life on my own. Lucky enough to get a call from the Rudline stable. I actually bought a couple of horses they bred, and they decided to let me train some horses for them. And first horse we ran won, and I was lucky enough to get Virginia Craft Payson. We sent a resume. First horse I ran first set a track record. So it was onwards and upwards, and then I got lucky enough to get the A string, and here we are in Saratoga, and about 38 years later, and very fortunate.
Yeah, and as I say, you guys right down the street. I think a lot of other horsemen are very envious of the facility. If people are ever driving around the racetrack, they can take a ride down the street here and see the barns and the facility where you're right next door to the track. And because of that, and I've mentioned the past couple of days talking to some other people in here, I don't know if the people realize Saratoga is active, obviously very active during the racing season, but now it's about April to November. And I'm assuming you guys are still active coming through and training your horses that whole time.
Yeah, we are very, we're here from about the last week of April, weather permitting, sometimes to November 15th. And the horses, they do very well up here. We have a lot of options. We have the turf courses to gallop on when the weather is nice, quote unquote. And like I say, it's just good for young horses. I mean, you can get their mind right. And, we use clear court even in the off season. We do a lot of figure eights, things like that. And there's so many tools here in Saratoga. The people are so kind. I mean, I know sometimes I make them mad crossing the street, but, all in all, it's heaven here.
Yeah, we talked about when you came and sat down. Some days I'm a little later getting here because the traffic gets stopped out there. But I think for most people, it's kind of like another part of the charm of Saratoga. Oh, that stop sign's up, and let's watch the horses go by. And I get stopped up the street too from the harness track, horses going over to Clare Court. The off season. Are there works over here, or is everything across the street at Oklahoma?
They let us go and jog. Basically, we come in where the 3/4 pole gap is here. We jog on the outside rail to the quarter pole and then cross over to Oklahoma. Okay. And which is very kind of NYRA, and so we can get some more sets out.
Yeah. No question about it. Tina, I saw you and Jim on the front side a few days ago, and you guys were both commenting. And I said one of the reasons I wanted you in was to promote it a little more, and then now it's more next year. But I think it's been a couple of years now that they have the breakfast and the barn tours where folks can come over, get a nice breakfast and watch the horses work out, then hop on a bus and go to a local farm. And you guys have done it. And I think I pulled up some video off your website of Song Hill Thoroughbreds, your local farm. Talk a little bit about how the tours have been this year for you guys, because you said you got a nice turnout and folks are pretty happy to get the tour.
So this is our first year doing it, and it's absolutely amazing the questions that they just want the information, and they want to understand how we raise these babies and what happens at the farm and their life before the horses get here. And so there's a lot of great questions. We talk about how we do work on the pedigree analysis as far as, and then the babies when they're born. And then we talk about yearlings, how we break them to the saddle because we break them there. And then we talk about, we do some sales prep for clients. So we talk about confirmation and sales prep. And we talk about retirement because we have a retirement paddock there for a lot of, and we talk about how new locations and what's there for the aftercare. And I think it's just been wonderful for people to get the behind the scenes tour and to see what it really takes to get the animals here. But it shows them the love that we have for the horses.
Yeah, and that is important, I think, because a lot of people don't realize, the backstretch people or the farm people, how much is put into it, and as you say, how much love and care is put into these horses. And we saw what a nice facility you guys have out there. Give us the genesis of Song Hill Thoroughbreds. How long have you been out there, and what brought you out in that direction?
It's about 18 years. We did have a small farm in Finger Lakes area, and it was named Song Hill, also Song Hill Thoroughbreds. But I always like kind of controlling my own destiny. Hence my barn over here, the 40 stall barn. And this farm, okay, it has Eurosizers. I mean, it's really very modern. It is spotless all the time. Every stall's padded. It just, everything's cross ventilated. I was lucky enough to train for some really great breeders through my lifetime. And I picked up a little from here, a little from there. Joe Taylor probably wrote one of the greatest books, raising of thoroughbred racehorses. He built 11 of the best farms in Lexington, Kentucky. So there's, you can get, older we get, hopefully get a little wiser.
Yeah, and we saw from the video, it's a gorgeous facility. And it's, what, 15, 20 minutes away from the track?
Exactly.
Yeah, so very close. And again, if you didn't get a chance to do the tours this summer, keep it on hold for next year. And you guys, as we were talking, maybe something in the works for off season as well.
Yeah.
It's a big possibility. We're kind of looking into it as we speak. So
yeah, and I don't blame you, because with the success that I think it's had, and as you say, to introduce people to the game in a different way, I think is notable and something we should kind of chase. Talk a little bit about the facility down the street too. When and how did you acquire that?
I've had it 24 years now. So I guess I'm getting older. I was over at the Payson barn, which is now Chad's barn now, okay, for 14 years. So we've been here a while. And it's just, it kind of, the racetracks, a lot of people don't understand. They have to give a lot stalls on the quality of horses you're bringing to race for the meet. Saratoga is kind of a tight fit sometimes coming out of Belmont, which we have about 2,400 stalls there. So, every stall is really a premium, okay, during the summer. And if you have a 2-year-old that probably is not going to run at the meet, you might have to ship it to another facility, whether Belmont or Monmouth or whatever. We know that I got 40 stalls all the time. We use the farm. A lot of times when a horse runs, we'll kick him out to the farm for 5-6 days. Like I say, we have excellent people that work for us, and just gives a horse back to nature. Gets him out of the office a little bit, and gets them to Saratoga, the Adirondacks, whatever you want to call it, and they breathe again, I call it.
Yeah, that's a great option. And nice to know if you're an owner as well, or part of the partnership, that is where your horses are headed, racetrack, and they can compete over here. But if they need it, they have the facility out there. And speaking of the partnership, I wanted to bring it up. And Tina, I'll let you talk a little bit about it, because we've talked about it before. Bond Racing, a locally based partnership where you kind of try to get some local people involved. And they were involved back on August 2nd. Feligny gets it done, the number 2 horse in here for the Bond Racing stable. So we'll look at a winner. But talk a little bit about the partnership, and can people get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. The website's jamesbondracing.com. All of our available horses are listed there. We do 10% shares, so it's a boutique-ish. Everybody is a real co-owner together, and everybody gets access to the paddock, to the winner's circle. This day was fantastic because we were having our annual Bond Racing partnership party that evening.
Perfect timing.
So Jim was here with the partners for that horse. I was at the farm, and we were cheering from there. So we do a little yearling show before our party, and so everybody gets to see the next vintage. We call them vintage years, hence on the wine names. So anyway, we showed them, and but the partnership is it's not just local. I have partners from about 140, 150 partners from all over the country right now. So it's amazing. I think they really like that it's a smaller, group of people, but yet everybody cheers for everybody. So if they're not involved in that horse, they still cheer for everybody. Yeah. So it's wonderful. What would you add to it, Jim?
No, like I say, we keep the majority interest on everything, and it kind of helps. And our goal is to hopefully get those 10%ers to buy a whole horse someday, experience, get their feet wet, and maybe this is the game for them. And like I say, we've had so much fun. I didn't think we would have this much fun, but the people, okay, they're just good people. They love the horses, and that's one of the premier things. You got the horses first. As long as that's the way it is, we can move forward and hopefully we make some money. And
I had Matt in earlier from Adelphi Racing Club, and I've had partnership people in obviously many times over the years, and this season as well. And the social aspect is very important. Paddock, and they can come visit on the backstretch, and then you get in the winter circle with a horse like Bellini. It's all
very special.
And we have inventory. I mean, that's one of our biggest things is that we carry 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, yearlings. Now the weanlings are up, okay? And we have Omaha Beaches, Vina Rosas, and we have pedigrees. And, you know, some of these mares have just been retired, like Giacosa, like that. She's in full Golden Pal.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, when you look at it, and, you know, they're all New York breds. And I think it's a huge advantage racing in New York, having a New York bred, because you've got conditions to run through. I mean, you know, sometimes you have an open horse, you can't get them in, you know, and, you know, when you got a New York bred, you got a pretty good shot at racing.
Yeah, and the course up here, the open company races have the extra money for the New York bred. So the New York bred program is certainly, I've talked about it a bunch. I had Naj Thompson in the other day from the New York Thoroughbred Breeders for the showcase day last Sunday. And I remember, for me, the turnaround was the Finger Lakes horse, Fiorito, coming over here with Les Hewlett on board, breaks through the gate and wins the Whitney.
Ray Lassesi is the owner and great man. And yes, when I used to call me 7.5 of my nickname with Ray. And but anyway, but it's a great program. I'm on the Breeders Board. She's on the Vice President of the Horsemen's Board. And like I say, we are blessed to be here.
Yeah, and the Nitha does great work as well. Again, wanted to have you in, talk a little bit about just being our neighbors. We had to invite you in again, as we do every year, but wanted to talk a little about the barn tours as well. They've been successful. You mentioned the website, and I think we have a graphic with the website up, and I'll tell people to go visit that. There is also your Twitter handle to follow there as well. But if folks are interested in maybe learning more about bond racing and maybe becoming involved, owning a horse, website, a good place to go.
It is a good place. There's my email's there, my phone's there, so I'm always accessible. And there's no question is a silly question. We're happy to give enough information for people to make the right choice.
Very good. Jim, Tina Bond, thanks for the visit. And as I say, we will continue to wait for another few days as you drive by. Good luck the remainder of the meet going forward as well. As I say, appreciate the visit. We'll talk again.
Thank you,
Seth.
All right, going to wrap it up for this Friday morning. Don't forget Clubhouse Racebook today. It is the Trifecta Challenge, the Bounty Bet. Play the late pick 5 with your Capital OTB bet account for a shot at the Bounty. The Sunday show pool, the last one, opens today at about noontime at capitalotb.com. And this afternoon here at the racetrack, tote bag giveaway. So keep that in mind if you're going to come up. And it's a gorgeous day. So if you're planning to come up, you've got a good one coming ahead for you. Looks like a fine weekend as well, with some great stakes racing to wrap up the meet. We'll be covering all of that over the next few days. And we'll be back in here tomorrow for morning programming, 9 a.m. for the handicapper support, 10 a.m. for Racing Across America. We'll see you then.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotv.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
You've been watching Racing Across America. Racing Across America has been brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.